shut the devil down, 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 shut the devil down. Come on, soldier.
For Father, this is God Level Soldier, God's Army Rising for the Youth, with a message concerning the mentality of the rich in America. It pertains to the world as a whole, but speaking specifically to Babylon about this reality. In Psalms 49, there's very direct specifics that identifies the reality of the attitude of the rich and their outcome. And I will skip ahead to the main parts. In Psalms 49, going down towards verse 6 through 8, it says, "Those who trust in their wealth and boast in the multitude of their riches, none of them can by any means redeem his brother, nor give to God a ransom for him, for the redemption of their soul is costly, and it shall cease forever." What's being identified there is simple, that there are many rich in this land that has an attitude towards feeling like their money can solve anything when it will have nothing to do with the saving of the soul. And God goes on to make it clear through Psalms that basically not only does it not do so, but it shall also be killed off in the day that God judges on this fact. And if you notice in the Bible, Psalms 49 is known as the confidence of the foolish. America would know all about that right now, because they really believe that their money and their riches is going to take care of things that in actuality is going to be the very iniquity that actually destroys it, along with other divisions in this country, which exactly sets up scriptures in the book of Matthew and other gospels that have to do with the fall by division. If you've looked at the Bible, you know he told y'all that, but yet government, everybody else keep fighting with each other, churches, everybody, when he said to not be divided. But on the other note here, it goes on here from about part of the way down verse 10 through verse 12, it says, "Likewise the fool and the senseless person perish and leave their wealth to others." Why? Because their inner thoughts, as it says here in verse 11, is that their houses will last forever, their dwelling places to all generations. Basically talking about those who leave their money to others, thinking that does something. They call their lands after their own names. Nevertheless, though in honor does not remain, he is likewise the beasts that perish. That means, like the animals out there, when you perish, nothing will go with you, no more than something an animal has out there will go with it. And it goes on to identify this in verse 13 and 14, where it says, "This is the way of those who are foolish, and their prosperity," focus on money. Next video, church, got a word for you there. Basically identifying the reality of tithing. Prosperity, not about money. Quit. "Who approve their saying, like sheep they are laid in the grave. Death shall feed on them." That means this very iniquity will literally kill you who choose to follow this. "The upright shall have dominion over them in the morning." That means the ones who seek the face of God continually, as the poor, instead of desiring to be rich, will have the high end of this stick before too long. And in the Bible, there is a scripture that tells us the first shall be last and the last shall be first. The first in the world shall be last, and those that serve God shall be first. Or as another scripture described in the Bible, shall be exalted like they exalted God in the world. It goes on from there, as I picked it up from verse 15, which is something separate of this for those who seek him. "But God will redeem my soul from the power of the grave." The reality of it is, those that seek him shall be separated from these things and have no worry of its outcome. In verse 16 and 17, it makes clear, "Do not be afraid of one who becomes rich," to those of us, "when the glory of his house is increased," when you see the rich increasing. And that's not just for houses, that has to do with these businesses, sources like, for instance, and I calls them out, Bank of America, the Walmarts of the world, the Super Targets of the world, the government sources, multiple entities, Verizon, everybody who always goes beyond customer service, for instance, and likes to think about that profit bottom line, forgetting that people made you possible through the grace of God to where none of you would be if it wasn't for those who pay into you. He tells you to not be afraid when their house increases. Why? Verse 17, "For when he dies, he shall carry nothing with him. His glory shall not descend after him." And it goes on to say, in verse 18, "Though while he lives, he blesses himself, for men will praise you when you do well for yourself." Verse 19, he shall go to the generation of his fathers. They shall never see light. A man who is in honor, yet does not understand, is like the beast that perish. Without the reality of knowing what the depth of that thing is, you probably wouldn't even understand those words, simply because everybody's so busy concentrating on money. Women concentrating on money against whatever job a car man has, something like that, or men with a certain attitude towards the paper, or businesses like Verizon, Bank of America, and other sources out there that feel like that profit margin is everything, when you forget that the way you treat the people will determine also your futures. What's made known in Psalms 49 applies to all of you, as well as the church, who manipulates the word tithe for the sake of drawing in more money from guilt as opposed to faith, while perpetuating themselves as something other than what they are, when in actuality the reality is, and what I'm putting on the back of this video instead of the next video, is going to be this: to the churches to this regard, understand this, and this is to add a tithing note to this assessment. When you stand before the congregation and choose to utilize the word, telling them about light bills and things like this, causing them to give more money, you would actually tell a lie, not a truth. Why? Because number one, tithing is not based in money. Anything that is increased, or other words, anything that God gives extra, it could be 2 loaves of bread. When you give it to your neighbor before the sight of God, it is a tithe. When the altar is described in the Bible in reference to these things, it means the sight of God. That means any given to another of their increase to their neighbor before the sight of God is a tithe. Get it right. Stop tying it to money, because the real prosperity is not in carnal things like money. The real prosperity described in the Bible is in spiritual things from God and the treasures that are in heaven. Stop misinterpreting that. I'm God, little soldier, God's only rising for you, telling you, always trust God, trust not in man, though you pray for peace.
Shut the devil down, 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 shut the devil down. Shut the devil down, 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 you better.